Hey, folks, welcome back. We're on stage here with Rob Pincus. Never a dull moment with Rob. And we're back here at the broadcast booth of the Concealed Carry Expo 2019. And having a heck of a show. We're about halfway through the show now at this point. How are things going for you so far?
Great. Actually, we are about halfway through. I started yesterday at 8:30 in the morning, and it was awesome. I'm not a morning guy, as everybody knows, but at 8:30 in the morning, we had a big crowd. And remember, the show didn't open until 2 yesterday.
Right.
So the fact that so many people came out, not just for my seminar, there were a lot of seminars going on yesterday morning. People at the USCCA Expo are people who train. They're people who take personal defense seriously. They're people who understand what I think are the most important aspects of the Second Amendment, which are defense of our way of life, our country in the worst case scenario. But as the courts have agreed, it's an individual right to defense that we're really protecting and we're exercising here in the best aspects of firearms use. If somebody wants to be a hunter, great. Somebody wants to be a target shooter, great. Somebody wants to do competition stuff, great, whatever. But defense is what it's all about.
He points at me.
And that's you're three-gun Riley. That's what I just said.
It means I like 3 guns. Only 3 guns. Glock. No,
rifles,
kidding.
pistols, and shotguns.
Oh, got to have the PD-10 in there, right? Okay,
Someday.
Anyway, sorry.
Someday.
One of these days.
I got to get my,
You had to bring
here.
that up, huh? Okay.
Anyway, continue.
No, you continue, please. I was saying it's great to be here.
It's great
until
to be here.
then.
Yeah, threw you off your rocker here. Please don't fall off the back of the stage. I'd hate to have.
What
a
am I,
lawsuit.
Chevy Chase now? I'm the physical comedy act from the USCCA.
Okay, so Rob, dude, you're everywhere. Obviously, you like to work. You like to probably say yes to more projects than you can probably handle sometimes, but you handle it anyway. You got this pin right here, WTTA.
Yep.
Walk the Talk America. I'm a big fan. We've had you on the podcast. We talked about that. We've had Michael Sedini on. So tell us about the work of Walk the Talk America. For those that are maybe watching and hearing about it for the first time.
Yeah, Walk the Talk America is a mental health awareness campaign, really, that we're running. And Mental Health America is our partner in that. They are a civil rights organization for people living with mental health issues. And this is their 109th year. And when Mike Sedini had the idea to help raise awareness inside the gun community about mental health issues and to try to help people find resources they need, to encourage people, like guys who are friends in the industry, to reach out to each other and say, hey, if you're having trouble with this, let me help you find the answers to this problem. The first place he started looking for us was in the mental health community, right? Well, first he looked around the gun industry and said, we're not doing a very good job of this. And then he looked around the mental health community and he found Mental Health America as an organization that explicitly stated in one of their position statements that they were neutral on the gun issue, that they consider the Second Amendment a civil right like any other civil right issue. They thought that their job was to protect people who were living with mental illnesses from having those rights taken away, except in the extreme, very few cases where it's necessary. So that was awesome. So we started learning more about what help is available and what the terminology is, how we talk about this stuff, and how we bring those resources into the gun community. So Mike reached out to several of us who've been in the gun industry for a long time. I don't think anybody inside of the board has been in the industry for less than a decade. Most of us have 2 or 3 decades under our belt. Mike is the president of one of the largest importers in the country. We have the president of the NASGW, which, if you don't know what the NASGW is, it's the trade organization for the big hitters, the largest firearms manufacturers, the largest ammunition manufacturers. It's a relatively small trade group, unlike the NSSF, which is really for the whole industry. Yeah. NASGW is the heavy hitters. So Kenyon Gleason, the president, is one of our board members. We have other people who work inside of the industry in various roles. We have Colleen Noir, spokesperson for the NRA, a very high-profile guy. He's come in and joined the board. So we're really just trying to tell everybody, we understand the concerns about mental health issues being weaponized. We understand the concerns with things like red flag laws and issues of abuse of mental health issues against gun ownership. That's not all mental health, right? And it's incredible. We know. If you just scratch the surface of the issue with the knowledge that we all have anecdotally about the vast number of veterans who take their own lives every year. They're part of the firearms community by default. They're armed professionals. You think about the law enforcement community, how that is affected by suicide or family member suicide with those firearms. You think about, of course, in the gun industry. Some very high-profile people, and you don't need to name names, but those of us in the industry who've been in the industry for a long time know that there are some very high-profile people, even from the training and education side of the industry, who have taken their own lives when they were faced with health issues and they saw the end coming and they chose to sort of go out on their own terms. We get that, and the mental health community definitely gets that, but there are many, 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 many people who need this kind of help, and we can't be afraid of helping our brothers and sisters in the gun community and encouraging them to get the help they need.
Yeah, agreed.
Speak up and get the resources to them.
Yeah, and in the first place, WTTA.org, if you go there, there's going to be a pop-up window, or you can navigate to WTTA.org/love, and that is where you're going to get a free screening opportunity. There's all sorts of categories, depression, anxiety, maybe you're concerned about suicide issues, where you can take a screening, and that screening is powered by Mental Health America. It's not just some questions Rob made up to see how you're doing today, right? It really is clinical and professional information and screening that's all handled anonymously. It goes straight into the system that's actually powered by MHA, comes back with anonymous and free resource opportunities that you have online, or even phone numbers you can call locally, in your area, you look down lists by state, lists by zip code, lists by area code, and get the help that you need. Yeah. I tell people this, what I want is for people to understand that physical health, and I've learned this over the years, and it took me a long time to figure it out myself, physical health, the way we treat it, like if I break my arm, right, I'm not just going to find two sticks, take my tie off, and I'll be, well, my arm's going to be crooked for the rest of my life, but I got this, I can handle it, right? But we're all concealed carry. I carry a gun because I'm not expecting the cops to protect me, right? I'm not expecting, I know how to build a fire, right? I can change a tire. That's kind of the people we are. Mental health, for some reason, is locked in this box of don't ask for help, you don't need it, toughen through it, all the cliches, all the masculine stuff. I'm not going to do that with physical health, right? And if I have a headache that's been lingering for a couple of days, it's not something that's, I could push through it. Maybe it's been there a couple of weeks. I could push through it. But maybe the right thing to do is go talk to a doctor and get the meds, or get the, maybe get the CAT scan and find out if there's a real problem here or not. And maybe it's nothing. And take some aspirin, drink some water. You aren't sleeping. Here's this will help you with your sleep for a week, and the headache goes away. Maybe it's a scan that says, wow, we got to get in there right now. Boom, they knock me out. They go in there, they take something out that's not supposed to be there, and if I have a life-changing event. But we don't know until we go to the doctor, and that's how mental health works. Mental health is as varied in type, severity, treatment, impact as physical health is, right? Mild depression, okay, well, we can help you with that, right? Anxiety, we can help you with that.
Yeah.
Bipolar disorder, we can help you with that, right? Suicidal thoughts, we can help you with that. Not we, but the people can help.
Right.
Just like a physical doctor can help you with all those range of physical ailments. And does that mean that sometimes people shouldn't have guns in their lives? Absolutely, 100%. Whoa. Concealed Carry Inc., Rob Pincus, USCCA. We have to admit that. If you can't admit there are people on Earth who, while they're dealing with these mental issues, shouldn't have access to firearms, and they know it. And in a large number of cases, just being a friend and saying, hey, how about if I clean your guns for you this weekend, buddy? They're going to know what you're talking about.
Right.
And if you're in New Jersey, clean the firing pins. I get it, right? You can't transfer the gun, but you can clean the firing pins.
Yeah, I recently actually went through some suicide prevention training. My church, actually, was a big deal. We wanted to make sure that people at church were aware of some of the issues with mental health, suicide, crisis type moments. And what was interesting about that training, and what I learned, was that a lot of these crises that people might find themselves in, they're temporary, and there's a period of time where we just got to get them over the hump.
Absolutely, 100%. Right? Well, definitely an important piece that we've learned is this idea of impulsivity, and the more steps you can put between you and the act, the better, because it's that many more hesitation moments. And if that just means, it doesn't mean necessarily putting your guns at your uncle's house, or taking your guns to your local gun range that has a program, and more gun ranges all over the country have a, hey, if you're having a hard time in your life for whatever reason, we're not even going to ask too many questions about why, but we will take your guns in and store them. If you don't even have to get to that point, just to, lock the gun, unload the gun, right? I get it. We want to be prepared, we want to be all that, but it's not an action movie, right? It's not like somebody's going to come bursting through your door and you're going to dive roll onto a gun, that you have staged behind a pillow, come up shooting like John Wick. If that's your home defense plan, read my book, because that's not it. So you're going to, if you have to put in button, quick access safe, get the gun out, magazine, rack the slide, if you can't do that while the guy's breaking through your door, or after you've barricaded your family, I don't know how much success you're going to have in the dive roll, come up shooting scenario either, right? So maybe just having to put in those buttons, right? And putting up, we have that protect what you love idea. That's as simple as that. Protect what you love, handwriting, put a piece of tape over it, put it on top of your quick access safe, put the gun in there, and maybe in that impulsive moment when you're about to give up, when you're thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, I don't know how I'm going to do this, I can't live with this, I'm so embarrassed, I got a DUI, my career's over, my wife's left me, whatever your thing is, as you're hitting those buttons, love yourself, right? Protect what you love. And if what you love is your kids, protect yourself for your kids, for the future. You're going to get through it. Like you're going to get through it. There's stories of people who like jump off like the Golden Gate Bridge and they survive. Instantly, they're like, "What have I done?" As they're like heading to the water, and 20 years later, they're still alive. If you survive a suicide attempt, there's like an 80+% survival rate a decade later. Right, because it's so impulsive, and then obviously you survive it, and then you get the help, and you get the attention. You realize there are people out there who help you, and your friends, and your family, or your coworkers. Just some guy. You're in the gun community. I care about you because you're in the gun community, right? Like that's enough because you're America. Oh, you know what? Because you're an Earthling. How about that? So if I'm in Prague sometime and I'm like over here having a drink and you're feeling bad, like come over and let me know. And I'm not saying we're gonna like hang out for like a week, but for a while, like I'll give you a card. I'll give you a website. I'll like a pat on the back. Like maybe I'll probably not buy you a drink would be the right thing to do according to mental health people. Maybe that's what we'll do. I don't know. But just, being a friend, asking for help, realizing there are people out there to help you, and realizing it, in many cases you can help yourself, but you have to have the tools. And that's where it starts. It's just awareness, diagnosis, asking for the help, and figuring out, just like the gun. Like you have the gun on, but you weren't like born with the gun on, right? So somewhere along the line, you had to go buy the gun. You had to go ask for the help. You had to get the training. You had to, read Concealed Carry Magazine. You had to watch your podcast. You had to go to the seminar you did. You did a great thing yesterday on vehicle stuff. I was listening about I don't know, probably all of about 20 minutes, and it was really good information. But if someone didn't take the time to go to that seminar, they wouldn't have gotten the information from you. Yeah. So we can't be magic with mental health, right? Go get the information and go ask for the information. You still may be able to take care of it, right? Deep breathing, right? Like, or, just like happy thoughts, right? Or maybe it's a medication, maybe it's counseling, maybe it's more severe than that. But it may also be very simple and something you can do, just like carrying a firearm around and learning how to use it is something that we all have decided we can do. Yep. But we had to take those steps.
Well, I think one of the things we need to get over also is preventative. When we start feeling those types of things, don't wait until you're in that suicidal moment, on the edge of Golden Gate Bridge. Go along and say, hey, I need to make a call. I need to talk to a professional. I need to talk, religious leader, psychologist, something along those lines. But put as many steps between you and being on that edge of that bridge as you can to prevent something from happening. Yeah. Because there are people that are going to care about you.
There are, and it starts with you. Again, I keep going back to it. It starts with you caring about yourself enough. We have this idea that comes from Mental Health America, and it's a hashtag B4, like the letter B, number 4, stage 4, right? And the idea is before it's acute, right? We talk about stage 4 terminal cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Like B4, stage 4. It shouldn't be when you're reaching for your gun. Shouldn't be the time you have to see that sign. But if that's what it takes, put that little sign on there. But at the same time, if you can get ahead of it, get way ahead of it, right? Set up the coping mechanisms, and I don't care if it's meditation, I don't care if it's group therapy, I don't care if it's going to see a counselor or therapist every other week, if it's church, if it's your hobbies. Maybe it is shooting, maybe it is the social things that you do that keep you grounded and remind you of all the awesome stuff that Earth has, and probably all the awesome stuff that you have that in that moment you may dismiss because this other thing has your attention, right? So whatever it is, it's the tattoo that you get, it's the bracelet you wear, it's the ritual that you go through once a week, once a month, once a day when you wake up in the morning to keep yourself focused. Because a lot of the stuff you can do yourself, right? But you got to go out and get the answers. You got to find out what you're dealing with.
Now, a lot of people are, I think, afraid, right? They're afraid that somebody's going to tell them they can't do something. They're going to be afraid that somebody's going to say you got to take your guns away.
Social stigma.
Social stigma.
We get so much of that today.
So like, what would you say? How do we begin overcoming that as a community, especially as a gun culture? Because that's probably the hardest thing for a lot of these people here is to go to a doctor and admit, I'm having these thoughts,
right?
And then also you have doctors these days ask questions like, well, do you have a gun in the house? So they're afraid that somewhere along the line someone's gonna be like, got to take your guns away, bro.
So I use the alcohol example, right? Like, and people know. I think people know if you follow my social media for 14 hours, you're probably going to notice that I have a drink, right? So, but and there's things that we talk about. Like I don't carry a gun while I'm drinking, right? And it'd be, so you support gun-free zones? No, I support responsible gun ownership, and I don't feel it's responsible when you're going out and having a few drinks. Just like I use Uber, right? I don't drive after I've been drinking, right? So there is a lifestyle issue there, right? That I make that choice to use alcohol to drink, but also then not to carry my gun. If I go to the doctor, and when I go to the doctor, one of the questions they ask you, same thing, is do you drink alcohol? And I live in Colorado sometimes, right? So they ask you, but you use other things too. But they ask you these questions. The screener says, do you use alcohol? Yes. How frequently? And it's like 5 to 7 days a week or 3 to 4 days a week or whatever it is. And it's like, well, honestly, if I think about it, unless it's an awkward week, it probably is 4 or 5 days. Well, I already know as like an objective thinker that if I'm in the last column, that there's a reason it's the last column. There's the it doesn't matter, there's the it might matter column, and then there's the it matters column. So by saying yes to that question, I realize there's going to be a follow-up from the doctor, like, well, tell me about that. And it might be judgy and it might be whatever, but somewhere along the line, that bar was set as a potential sign. What you have to understand is that just like with suicide, just like with depression, just like with anxiety, with everything else, there's a whole bunch of categories, right? And just because you're in one category, then, well, do you feel like if you don't drink, something's missing from your day? That's a follow-up question. No. Are there days where you don't drink? Yes. Are there times when you don't drink for 3 to 5, 4 to 7 days in a row? Yes. All right, doesn't sound like it's a problem. Move on, right? So you can't be afraid of that, that the slippery slope or the crack in the door. Like, are there doctors out there with an agenda? Are there mental health professionals out there with an agenda? Are there pro-gun control people or anti-gun people who have an agenda to weaponize that or abuse some kind of power? Sure, of course there are, right? But there are police officers who have sexually assaulted women on traffic stops. It doesn't mean that speed limits are a nefarious way to encourage sexual assault against women. Right? Sure. Speed limits are there for a completely different reason, and if a police officer abuses his power, that's no reason to indict the entire system and to say, well, no way, I'm not even driving because of speed limits because I don't want to get sexually assaulted, right? But that's sort of the attitude we have when we start fear-mongering about mental health inside of the gun community. If you would even ask the question, if you even say, yeah, well, it's none of their business if I have guns. Let me tell you something. It's none of their business if you have guns. How do you think they collect numbers on how many people in the United States are comfortable with gun ownership? That might be one of the ways. So while you're running around saying, I'm not telling them I own guns, all of a sudden there's not 100 million gun owners in the U.S. Now there's 90 million. Then there's 80 million. Then you convince your friends not to tell their doctors. Now there's 70 million. Now the newspaper says gun ownership is declining in America. And then somebody says, apparently even gun owners aren't owning guns anymore. There's no way I'm going to own a gun. Even they understand it's dangerous. I'm not going to do it. Now there's 60 million gun owners in America. That's how this happens. You want a slippery slope? Don't be proud to be a gun owner. If you're not doing anything wrong with your guns, be proud to be a gun owner. And if you're sincerely looking for help as a gun owner with a mental health issue, that might mean not having your guns in your life for a week is a smart thing to do. Not having your guns in your life for a month is a smart thing to do. We talk about SSRIs. How many people in the country are on SSRIs, right? And the number of people that are on SSRIs, depression drugs that are going to change your judgment, especially potentially have, sleep issues, suicidal thoughts, potential rage issues, potential judgment issues in a temporary period when you go on or off of them, and that might be up to a month. Well, a lot of people in the gun community will point to active shooters, right? Like any of these spree killer situations. Active shooter situation, 97%, make up a number, were on SSRIs at some point in their lives. Well, okay, but also 100% of spree shooters all use firearms, right? So how many of us own firearms and never go into a spree killing, right? Lots and lots of people are on SSRIs and never go on any kind of rampage. However, if you honestly believe that that's a causal or correlated relationship and you know someone who carries a gun every day and is going on or off an SSRI, wouldn't it be our responsibility as a gun community to say, don't carry the gun this week. Let this settle in. Let's see how this new drug that is a mind, mood-altering drug affects your judgment and affects your behavior for a week or two voluntarily. I'm not saying when you get the prescription, they take your guns away. None of this is government.
We should be responsible. Well,
just being responsible.
Just like drinking.
To me, that's common sense. Another word we're not supposed to use in the gun community, right?
And it's about policing our own, too.
Absolutely. So important.
And that's what I appreciate about the work of Walk Talk America is that we're stepping up to the table.
Yep.
And saying, let's take this under our, inside our house, under our roof, and let's police our own.
Absolutely. Huge, because as I always say, if we don't demonstrate responsibility, there are those who will legislate their version of responsibility upon us. Exactly. So we have to call out the bad actors. We have to talk about the negligence sometimes. Dementia, another mental health issue. If you take dad or grandpa's keys away, you probably should take the shotgun out from behind the door too. And well, he fought in Korea for our rights. I get it. I respect that. I will go to the VFW and buy him a beer. We'll hang out. I want to hear the stories. I want to let him know he's appreciated for all those reasons. But those two things go together. If you can't be trusted to drive the car, if you can't be trusted to handle your own finances, if you're needing to take care of that elderly person in your life, you probably need to be thinking about whether or not they should have access to firearms, unsupervised access to firearms. And that's that's anathema. How dare you say that, Rob? Except I say it because, we had a guy not too far from where we are right now last year shoot his granddaughter. And the first thing the family said to the press was, yeah, he's been suffering from dementia, and he must have made a mistake. He must have thought she was, you knew that. The gun was still in the house. Help me out. Yeah. Let's police our own before they start policing us.
That's a tough conversation to have within a family, but it is something that does need to be addressed. Back to WTTA.org/love, the survey, the screening, I think is amazing. It's excellent. I think everyone should, especially if you're thinking there's maybe just something that's not quite right, something's a little bit out of whack, do the screening. The screening is not a diagnosis,
right?
But it'll give you a clue. Maybe there's something you need to go talk to a doctor about. But what would be the next step there, Rob? I mean, how do people, let's say that there is something that maybe they should have looked at. Where would they find good resources?
Again, you're going to find the resources right there. So when you're done with the screening, you're going to have access to some resources right there. Of course, you can go back to Mental Health America. Like I said, they've been around for 109 years. They've got affiliates in every state. Now, the mental health industry, if you will, has been devastated by budget cuts and the stigma of mental health and all these other issues, right? So they're an funded and under-resourced community inside of it as a subset of the medical community, but it doesn't mean that they're not there, right? There are resources all over the place. So if you absolutely can't find anything, I'll tell you right now, I do all my own social media, right? We're just selfieing, like reach out to me, send me a private message, send me a direct message, comment on a Facebook thing, and just, reach out. Go to WTTA.org, obviously. Send us an email, make a comment on the Facebook page, send us a private message. Where I'm looking for a resource and I can't find it, we'll find it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Somebody, people will tell me, like, I can't find the video that you did on presentation from the crossbreed appendix holster under concealment, right? So what do? I copy it, I put it into Google, and then the link shows up, and then I copy the link, and I go back to the comment thread, and I put it there, and I say, here you go, buddy, right? Because that's what I do. Like, I live on the internet. I'll find it. If you can't find it, I'll find it. Even if it seems simple and you're frustrated, where are all these resources? I promise you, there are people who will help you find them if you can't, but they're out there. Yeah. It's the willingness to look. And I keep going back in the gun community to, if you're carrying a gun around in public space, you figured out how to buy the gun, you figured out which gun fit you, you figured out how to get a permit, you figured out how to wear the holster on your body. Like, if you figured all that out, you're going to figure out how to find a counselor. You're going to figure out how to find the help that you need. And I'll tell you one thing about the screenings. Even if you don't think anything's wrong, like, go ahead and take the screening to convince yourself, right? Like, I mean, we go get physicals, right? So I don't think anything's wrong. But yeah, do the blood test. Sure, let's figure it out, right? Like check. I want to do the cancer screening. Yeah, I do. Why wouldn't I? Right? We have the technology. So you have the technology to get a head start on your mental health as well. And again, proactive, like you said. Don't wait until you're already obviously needing the help. Maybe you're never going to need that professional help just because you develop, again, those coping mechanisms and the perspective that you're going to get from learning more about how mental health works. You can eat well and exercise and go to the doctor a lot less. There's ways to eat well and exercise your brain and your emotions as well.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Great.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but Rob, thanks so much for stopping by,
talking
with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Folks, just as parting words, go to WTTA.org. Check them out and the many resources there. Of course, they're always open for donations as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, good stuff. Good work, brother. We hope to cross paths again here very soon.
I'm sure we will.
We'll be back live here in just a few minutes. Stick around with lots more great content. We'll see you soon.
15 years in the military and over a decade in Special Forces, I've learned a thing or two. One of them being the importance of footwear. If your boots fail you, you might too. The people of 511, they don't just create their products in a vacuum. They get input from the guys and gals on the ground. Why are the ATAC 2.0 so good? Because the wizards at 511 took all the original features and added even more. Ones that, well, quite frankly, I love, so will you. Of all the features, the ones I love the most are these soles. Flexible, lightweight, you can still feel everything beneath your feet and you're still protected. Regardless of your mission, whether it's 16-hour patrol, fast roving out of a helicopter, or just hiking in the backcountry, you need quality footwear. Like these ATAC 2.0.